Welcome back to the Conversion Stack. We have an awesome guest today, Vlad Negron, our Director of Marketing. And we're going to talk something really fun and really unique, is the value of project management and soft skills in marketing. We're going to talk about AI, we're going to talk about stakeholder management, we're going to talk about timelines, scopes, all these awesome things that we tend to believe actually help speed up creativity and speed and agility. So let's dive in, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Let's go. Vlad, we're back. We're talking project management. Some companies want to scale project management. We've kind of outlined that we wanted to talk about scaling project management. I don't know what it means to scale project management. So help me understand that, and let's dive in a little bit.
Yeah. The way I see it, scale is going to be somewhat subjective too. I know some project managers that are managing at a PMO. It's called like a project management office, and they're leading dozens of projects across dozens of teams with dozens of people on each project. And that's like, to me, that's like crazy big scale. Yeah. But it's still able to be accomplished because there are systems in place. So whether you're an organization that's doing like one project really well or an organization that's doing dozens of projects really well, the system should be still set in place that system can scale.
Yeah. So
I listed out some criteria to determine project scale, and then we'll talk about like how to effectively scale. So to me, like some criteria to consider, like your budget or the cost of the project, the complexity of the project, the time frame of it, and this is a key one, especially for your CMOs out there, your business leaders out there. Strategic importance. If you don't really understand the strategic importance of the project, or maybe it's a group of projects, we call them programs in project management, then the level of priority is just going to be all over the place, right? And you're not going to be able to dedicate the right kind of resources, whether it's like budget or any of the other kind of resources. So that to me like starts speaking a little bit more about like what kind of criteria to start considering. And then scalability. So we talked about creating a system. I would call it like more of like a framework and a process. And that's one. I wouldn't say that's easy, but that's easier than two, which is hold true to that framework. Like so often you start this out and then something happens and like people just like throw it against the wall. Let's just get things done. I don't care how it gets done. And that ends up totally ruining what you have set up. So that's another important one.
Yeah,
and
I don't want to cut you off, but I feel like most systems and processes end up being documents in your drive.
Yeah.
Right. So it feels to me like a lot of project management, to your last point, is enforcing those systems and SOPs and processes. That's how you're going to speed up the output.
Yeah. And for the acronym people out there, SOPs, Standard Operating Procedures. It's good. Yeah. I know a thing or two. But so we talked about framework process. We talked about holding true to that. You need the people, right? You need to hire experienced project managers, multidiscipline team. We love those, right? You can't just have a whole bunch of project managers. You need your subject matter experts. You need all these sorts of people to be able to execute on a variety of projects.
Yeah.
And then you started talking about this, and I don't know if you did your research before on project management, capture lessons learned. So this one's a tricky one for people that are on the beginning of their project management side, but understanding through the life of the project, like what's happening, both good and bad, and documenting that. And then not just documenting it and it going into a hole, but for it to be exposed, pulled out, and use the next time a similar project or projects are taken out, and then it's just rinse and repeat.
Yeah, I love that. Weird question. Why or what's the difference? And maybe because we think of project management as less tangible goods, but what's the difference between project management and supply chain? Is it not getting all the systems and process to produce an output? And because in hard goods, which we have some experience on, you're really focusing on processes and procurement and people allocation, so you can like put something through a supply chain and get an output as fast and effective as possible. Am I just totally off
No,
here?
I mean, especially if you're talking about supply chain in the real sense of like manufacturing.
Yeah.
A lot of early project management came from that side. Like the history of project management, if you look at it, things like your automotive industry, NASA,
Yeah.
some of these large organizations that needed to standardize their processes, especially on the automotive industry, you start getting into things like Lean Six Sigma, where they're trying to limit and mitigate errors and like fallacies, and you're trying to ensure that you have like the smallest amount. Like I'm trying to remember the exact number, but you're like at 99 point something percent of having like a good product, because you can't afford for a car to like blow up on somebody, right?
Yeah.
You need that.
Mission critical.
You need it.
Yeah.
I mean, mission critical, I think at NASA, right? You can't afford having a rocket blow up on you.
Yeah.
I mean, that does happen, unfortunately, in our history, but the systems are set in place so that you mitigate against that.
Mm-hmm. It makes me think of just in time, like the famous Toyota concept, and something that when you start thinking about project management and optimization, you know, if we have a client or a partner where we verticalize heavily for some reason, our product works for a ton of verticals. Maybe let's talk healthcare, pediatrics, dentists, veterinarians, all that stuff.
Yeah.
We may create a system where we create a landing page, content, and distribution structure that we just build out all the core components of that and make them plug and play, so we can verticalize really fast and effectively. So like, can we bring just in time into digital marketing? And I think the answer, to some aspect, it might be a slightly cookie cutter, which may or may not be good depending what you're doing, but to some aspect, yes. And is that type of like feedback loop and optimization of the process part of project management?
I would say so. Like understanding efficiencies, because to me, knowing a little bit about it just in time, that was about that, trying to ensure that the efficiencies were in play and that you could deliver that product, and understanding where, I don't know all the research that came into it, but somebody had to think this through, right? It didn't just, there was some creative thinking initially, but then somebody had to actually plan that out, and then somebody else, or probably more of a group of people, had to actually execute on that. So all aspects are important, and that's, to me, that's the beauty of project management, trying to see a vision and make it reality.
Yeah, it makes me think of I'll wrap us up with this, something I heard a long time ago, and the question was, what makes McDonald's one of the best companies in the world? And the response was, a bunch of extremely smart people built processes and systems that are so amazing that anyone in the world can execute it flawlessly. So they can just execute and replicate worldwide the same exact burger or whatever it is, with little training and, you know, low cost labor, and just execute those things really, really perfect.
Now you got me hungry.
Yeah, me too.